all kinds of excitement today with the cameras, and welcome. Great crowd here. This is our historic building series. This is the, I think, 4th installment we've done. And today Mandy's going to surprise us with some of her picks. I have no idea what she picked, so it will be a nice surprise. This program is happening because of partnership between the library and the Massillon Local History Genealogy Society and Massillon Museum. I do have some things over there, and so does Mandy, for some upcoming events and programs. There's some Spring Hill items coming up. They're doing some archaeological digs and research days. That's over there. There will be on August 5th here at the library in this room an all-day genealogy seminar. Limited space, so sign up quickly. It actually, registration started today for open registration. I only can fit, probably with tables, about 24 people in here, so sign up quick. That is all day with Dana Palmer. Information is over there. Richard Haldy will be coming July 10th, but it's not one of his normal topics. He's going to do the Shakespeare controversy.
He's going to do what?
Shakespeare controversy. So the controversy over who Shakespeare really was. So if that's your thing, I do have a couple flyers over there for that. So those are some upcoming events and exciting news. Mandy, really, she just took one of those.
It looks like this.
Yes,
So.
just like that. But that is in the evening on July 10th at 6 p.m. And that will be here in the auditorium. Registration is online. Mandy doesn't need much of an introduction in this community, but you know, Mandy, the archivist at the Massillon Museum and board member at Spring Hill, yes. Got a book here just so I can, you know, she published the Early Massillon and Lost Kendall. So Mandy, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Take it over. Let's see what her picks are.
Huzzah. Thank you guys so much for having me. So I definitely don't want to be formal, so if any of you have input or questions or things, please feel free to raise your hand, input, answer questions, all the things, because, you know, me standing up here talking. Yes, please.
Just saw you on the Wilder Mysteries Unknown or Mysteries?
Yeah, the Travel Channel's Mysteries in the Museum.
Yes.
Yes, 2015, talking about Jacob Coxey's protest march on Washington. My national television debut. So, yes, thank you. Yeah, I love when they play that every once in a while. I'm like, oh, hey, there I am. That's pretty cool. So it was cool. I finally got to show my son, who's 4. I'm like, look, it's Mom. She's on TV. Woo! So, yay. So I was very challenged by this topic because I noticed you guys have done churches, you've done schools, you've done other kinds of buildings. I'm like, okay, like what qualifies as a cool building that I would pick out as like my favorite thing? So I literally am just calling it Mandy's favorite Massillon buildings because they're weird and they're things that we might not even talk about and they're cool. So bear with me. Here's my things. All right, so the oldest house in Massillon. Can anybody tell me what is the oldest still standing house today in Massillon? Go ahead, Fred.
This building.
This building? No, very, very good guess. This is pretty old. This is 1835.
Spring Hill.
Spring Hill, wonderful guess. Actually, there's something older. But yeah, Spring Hill's 1821.
Tremont and Third?
Tremont and Third, nope.
Is it a
Yeah,
cabin?
the outhouse at Spring Hill.
The outhouse at Spring Hill, yes, which we're hoping to date.
Cabin?
Cabin? If we have a date on it. Is there a cabin that I'm unaware of that is still
Is that
standing?
one on Tremont?
Oh, yeah. Tremont.
That got taken away, yeah. So,
No, it's still there.
nope, just the garage. I know exactly which one you're talking about. Yes, on Tremont. So there was a log cabin at Tremont in like 16th Hess that was there, and that was one of Arvine Wales's supposedly one of his original cabins. But it has since migrated to Pennsylvania. So the only thing that's left is the garage. So I mean, they're thick beams with big white.
Maybe it's the garage.
Salt box house.
It's not still. I mean, there's many salt box houses around Massillon. I love this. Okay, so the answer is actually 216 Wales Road. You would never ever guess that this is from 1813.
Really?
Obviously, siding can do a heck of a lot for a house if you cover up all the original awesomeness. But this property was purchased in 1812, which was the original date of Kendall's platting. So they set out some lots. This is lot number 2. And Arvine Wales bought it. I don't think he actually ever put like Wales as in Wales Road. Don't think he ever actually put anything on it, but he sold it in 1813 to Bradford Kellogg, who had a brickyard. And so this house has sat here since 1813. So as far as, because when I did the early Massillon book, this was as far back as I could get as far as houses that are still physically standing. So as far as documented. So I would love for there to be something older, but this is where we're at.
That house there is what was on the screen before?
Yes.
Siding?
Yep. So it's not, it's still sided here.
Maybe
It's just slightly different. They added this like halfway stone thing, which is like a popular thing. So as you're sitting in traffic waiting for them to turn the stop sign to slow during construction on Wales Road, if you find yourself with one of the little Kendall Green parks on your left-hand side, Union Square, on your right, you'll find this building. There used to be 2 giant pine trees in the yard, like twin pine trees, that they tore down a couple years ago when they sold this. So.
I was confused, I thought that was 2 houses next to each other.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I didn't see the line until just now.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sideways,
Yeah.
front.
It's a duplex.
You have nice picture, yes.
Right? Cool. So another funky residence. So going through, we have approximately now like 60 to 80,000 negatives from the Massillon Independent. So if there's a picture that appeared in the newspaper, we likely have it. We only go back as far as like 1946, but that's a lot of photos that have been printed in the paper since the 40s. So I was coming across this one in 1948, and I was like, man, this is cool. This is a prefabricated Lestron house. This is amazing. I wonder where this thing is. This is so cool. So it's obviously this kind of idyllic time where just after World War II, everybody's coming home, they're having families. There were no houses for sale in Massillon because everybody, bless you, had come back and they were buying up houses left and right. So much in the way that like Levittown, Pennsylvania, they were like plotting out all these little subdivisions. So prefabricated was the way to go. It was easy. They brought a truck. They kind of like brought it up here. They kind of just unboxed this house thing, and you had like 4 different models you could pick from. And within a day, like boom, you've got this nice house. So we have one here in Massillon. This is not a Massillon photo, but just that idea, like, oh yes, Leave It to Beaver, it's a very specific time period. So this is from the museum's collection. So thinking of Dad out on the lawn with his like not powered mower that like just blades, which is like all the workout that you could possibly ever need. So I found it. It turns out I've been driving past it every day for approximately 10 years. This is on 17th Street, which is where I live, 2 blocks away from here. So still exists today. They had to replace the roof a few years ago. Again, that weird funky stone halfway up thing is a style, but it is on 17th Street. So there's only one. I feel like Lestron didn't get quite the push that it needed for everybody to suddenly get a Lestron house, but there are many, many throughout Ohio. There are actual like societies that get together to document them. Yeah.
Our whole allotment are the prefab manufactured homes.
Like Sears Homes?
They're I forget what company it was, but if you had, you could have your house this direction, or you could have your house that direction. It's
Gotcha.
like every other one is like the kitchen
Oh,
on
yeah.
the left and the bedrooms on the right, and then the next one is the kitchen on the right and the bedrooms on the left.
Yeah.
Our whole neighborhood was like that. They came, they set up the walls, and
It's amazing.
the main wall down through the center of the house is a permanent wall, but all the other walls can be unbolted in the attic and unbolted on the floor, and they can be moved.
It's so weird. I can't imagine that.
It can't be.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try it, but it could. Yeah. So anyway, Lestron House. Yes, please.
What neighborhood was that?
I'm over on 25th Street by Corral School.
All right, so 25th Street. All right. Yes, Fred.
You want to back up 2 pictures? The one before that. In 1946, when my dad came back from the Navy, the war, 46, 47, up on 15th Street Southwest, there's 4 of these houses in a row. Look just like that.
Look exactly like that.
I saw that realty transfer going on, and I went up, and there's a dumpster out there remodeling the house. I wanted to go in it, but nobody's been there.
Oh my gosh, like in the
Pay
dumpster right now?
$3,200. Yeah, right now.
I'll go
Yeah,
with you.
Pay
We'll go check it out.
$3,200 for that on a VA loan back in 1948.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, you gotta make it affordable with so many veterans coming home and
that's up
especially
by
with
Lawndale.
industry, Lawndale, yeah. Good call. All right. The next, I don't know why, I'm gonna be like known as the person who likes bathrooms. This is like gonna be the thing. So this is how I'm gonna be remembered. So, comfort stations. Nice way to say public bathrooms. So, back in the 1920s, we're migrating into indoor plumbing. A lot of places still have those little funky pole things with the tank up top, and they use gravity to push the water down. So
Water
they realized
closets. Those are called water closets.
water closets, exactly. So obviously, like as you're downtown and you want people to come down and shop in all of your businesses, but they might need to use the restroom, so they built these lovely comfort stations. So a lot of people will call and ask me when there was a subway in front of the museum. Very, very similar construction. No subways that I'm aware of. The building. What's that? Yes.
Which one was the men's and which one was the woman's?
I don't know.
Men's were on the right.
Huh?
Men's were on the right.
What do you mean, right? Right.
Men's was here.
West.
This is the west.
Ladies.
Men's were always right. That's why.
Men's.
Women were always right.
I see a sign right above here. There is a film that they made for Paul Brown where they put a like closed sign on one of the
So the
comfort
boys
stations.
coming up the steps right out of that.
Yeah. That's that one pointing towards the street. So the building that was there before the Massillon Museum was an 1860s building. It had a doctor's office. It had some residences up in here, and it's many businesses over time. So they had a water trough. So like it's already kind of a spot where people know to come to for assistance. And as they were about ready to tear it down in 1929 to make way for the current building, you can see that they've switched over to these lovely comfort stations. What I think is interesting is that back here, this definitely says women's entrance, and I'm not sure for like the restaurant if like we were supposed to use a separate door, but we have a women's entrance happening right here. So here's a sign that says public comfort station with a hand pointed, so you knew that you could use downtown. So then as the new building, this is our current one, obviously a little bit renovated, you can see that it's still hanging out there. For years I didn't really like pay attention or see it because it like the curve of the car and the curve of that just kind of blended in for my brain anyways. So a lot of nice views. You can see all the nice mannequins, the really cool front entrance. I really wish we had that. That's really cool. And then the one was right here. So today we have a flower box there, and the one was close to the corner. Hilariously, when they put the clock in our yard, they struck the foundation. We tried to warn them, like, hey, there's some stuff underneath there, and they definitely hit it.
What's the name of the building?
What's the name of what building?
When you just showed us.
The Swanson building?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
He's testing me, yes.
In the 1980s, they replaced the sidewalk there when they used to have football scoreboards and everything.
Yes.
So they ripped all the sidewalk out, and you could see the walls, the white tile walls of the bathroom at that time.
They're still there
They filled it all with sand.
with sand.
Yeah,
Yep.
then when like you said, when they dug for the clock. they-
Yep. So when they dug for the clock, oops, we found the bathrooms, cool, that's great to have a good reference point, right? But when they did streetscape in 2019, they also hit the other walls of the rest of the bathroom. So they were so kind to give me this 5-foot section for the collection. So I now have a 5-foot section of the original wall
I have
for the, do you have one as well?
One brick.
One brick. I know. I was like, I took one brick. I had permission. I was like, this is great. And they're like, but here's a 5-foot
Yeah.
section. So I was like, okie dokie, we'll take it. So there's one article that we were able to find that shows the actual bathroom with the stalls, and then they did have a shoe shine. What the original intent for supervising, making sure everything's stocked and nothing nefarious is going on, was that there would be a shoe shine stand here, and that person would be kind of the bathroom attendant who would kind of oversee everything. So it didn't quite go well towards like the 1950s, as there were other places to use the restroom. So this comfort station thing kind of fell by the wayside.
When were they taken down?
I honestly don't have like the official date, but I can tell you that these negatives in the 1950s from the Independent show that the basis for those overhangs are now flower beds, Christmas decorations. We also then put in, apparently there was a whole concrete thing with a flagpole. There was a telephone booth, like, ooh, ah. It's now historic, you guys. This is weird. I felt like so excited. Chloe's Diner put in a telephone booth near. I was like, oh, I'm approaching 40. So here is the streetscape. I know, guys. I'm sorry. I'm coming on the other side with you, where I'm like very nostalgic about rotary phones. So these are the pictures that I took of streetscape as they were attempting to do those bump outs in the sidewalk, and they hit those lovely spots. So yeah, there's just cascading brick, and it was white, and I was like, I know what we're looking at. So there we go. All right, anything about conversations? Any other questions before we move on to other random things? All right, so this one I'm not going to talk a whole lot about. It was a beautiful, beautiful block built in 1888 just north of the McLean's building, which people know as the Massillon building, the big white one, kind of wraps around. It is now a parking lot, like behind Walgreens and the Massillon building. Just an amazing looking structure. I just want to visit for one day. That would be awesome. Please and thank you. We do have a whole clothing store. There's a cigar manufacturer. There's a photo studio upstairs. And I always love when they take these big photos where every person who owns a business in that building poses for the photo. So you guys gotta scan these things really high resolution in order to see who's even standing out there.
And then there's always someone in the window.
There's always someone in the window, yes. And I'm like, how are you not falling out? You're like 10 stories up. This is absurd. So within the Warwick block was the Massillon Post Office in 1898 before they got their own building in 1913. And so here they are posing outside of the Warwick block. Sadly, the horses that pulled the postal carts were lost in a livery fire in downtown 1907. And the Croxton Keaton Jewel Automobile Company loaned them all of their cars to be able to still get the mail out, in light of their transportation hindrances. So they've got their Jewel automobiles. And of course, it made a really great promo for them, So I love when we can see inside, because people can take photos from the outside all the live long day, but when you can actually take us inside, this is what the post office looked like in the inside. And it's like Mary Poppins, like it's a bank. It looks so amazing. You can see the gas lights up here. You've got, nice lamps up there.
Lighted windows.
So there's a close-up of our people. Oh, forgot to say, Williman Furniture, they were also undertakers, because people who can make furniture also make really great coffins. Ooh. What do we have? Erie Express, yep. Always those dudes in the window there. Margaret, you've got like 3 of them hanging out there.
More than that.
I think there's some on the upper floors, but there's at least 1, 2, 3 there. And of course you can see, you can tell by exposure time too, like if somebody's blurry, it took a long time for that photo to take. It's very hard to stand still, especially with horses. They're gonna move around a lot. So the reason that I picked this building, the next exhibit that I would like to put in the Massillon History Gallery is going to be about salvage and signage and things that kind of exist. How do you represent the Warwick block without that photograph? So someone thought to save one of these architectural details. It stands about this tall. It's like a very massive, 2 or 3 foot sandstone thingy. And it is this little guy right here. So it's just this little teeny tiny flower where, let me see, so let me get back to the big, so giant building, and we've got that right there. So it's just this little teeny tiny flower that was saved. So thank goodness somebody saved it, so now we have a piece to talk about. McLean Grocery Company. So technically, they started in downtown, but the thing I like, and I'm sorry, Google Maps is my friend, so I'm saying it for the internet that thank you. These are for educational purposes. Being able to pull up to a building at 2 a.m. to screenshot something is really nice. On the side of the building, you can still see some of the archways where the canal actually ran underneath the building. As buildings expanded across the canal, as we kind of decommissioned parts of it, you can still see some of those little elements hanging out.
What corner was that, Mandy?
Oh boy, that's
First and Charles.
thank you. Yeah, this is Charles,
That's first.
and then First and Erie.
No.
No?
First and Charles.
Well, that's First Street, you're right.
Southeast corner.
That's first.
That's first.
So
Charles
Erie's-
is looking where your nose is.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
No,
I
because this is
live in that
pointed toward,
building.
okay. Because we're looking down
Took care
here,
of that.
and this is First, and that's Erie on the other side, this is Charles.
No.
You're backwards.
You're right, okay, no, you're right, I will let you
Turn
have
the
that one.
around.
You're right, you are correct. So underneath the building, there are, the city of Massillon documented all of these sewer, paving, WPA projects that they had ever put their hands on. So we have these lovely books and negatives. Some of them are labeled, some of them are not. But underneath the McLean building, then that's where kind of these archways, this all got, kind of bricked in, boxed in, at least for the street part. I don't know what actually exists under the building today.
Were you ever in the building?
What's that?
Were you ever in it?
I have not gone in there.
It's really odd. It's not, it's 2 levels. Half a level.
Because the first part of it was built in
Yes.
like the 1840s, 1850s,
Right.
30s, somewhere in there. And then, in the 20s, they were like, we're going to
It's not a full
expand.
story, it's just a half
That's
story.
so
It's
cool.
really weird, it's weird.
It's similar like that in the stone block at Erie and Tremont. It's two different blocks that
More
are.
pronounced.
Mhm.
More pronounced.
Yeah, like, did we not check to see what level the other floor was at before we started building? Because it was right there. So this is a view from the back end. So you can see the stone block there. This is a building that sadly was lost to fire. But this is the back of the McLean Grocery Company. Like a weird random glass plate negative that somebody took, which I appreciated because I could see the backside. And so the McLean Grocery Company started, as a small storefront. Obviously, they expanded. They, they delivered. They obviously had a whole fleet of trucks that went here, there, and everywhere. So on this side is what is now former Sarda bus station, and then this is the McLean Grocery Company. These are 2 separate photographs. So right here would have been the bays where all of the trucks came to load in, drop off, pick up. All the things that trucks do at grocery stores. Sorry, I'm clearly a historian, not a logistics person. So this is their original storefront downtown Massillon. If we're looking, it was just most recently Bonnie's Engravers Gallery. It's kind of the section that is still standing all by itself at the corner of Lincolnway and Erie Street. So I'm hoping that we can save that. Here is C.L. McLean, who started the company, or Seth Meyers is what he looks like, very mustachioed Seth Meyers, late night host. But it's great because you can see that he is right here. And then kind of based on like the women's wear, it looks like an 1860s photograph. You've got John McLean over here. He was his father. So it's kind of hard to date things like this when we don't have like enough detail, but you can kind of see the lines of skirts. So I'm guessing somewhere in that range,
Did John
1860s,
start
1870s.
Did John start the grocery business, or was it CL?
CL started McLean Grocery.
Okay.
Clearly the Danglers had married into the family, so they were combining. He had like 11 billion businesses. I mean, like name
Okay.
something that was happening in the 1840s,
Yeah,
and John
I mean, I
was a
see
part
his
of
name
it.
the name all over the place. We live right down the street from him.
Okay. So I think maybe it's just a proud dad moment. Maybe he was involved on the back side of funding. I'm not sure. So obviously they expanded over time and they became a huge operation. Were later brought out by Fleming Foods and sadly then eventually closed. Okay. Yes, Lee.
I had a brief
Mm-hmm.
but wonderful conversation with the surviving McLean at the Spring Hill.
There's a few
Underground.
surviving McLeans.
I think it was Frank, right?
Steve.
Steve. Anyway, I was just gonna tell both of you, I wonder if he does speeches. He has so much information.
He does.
Not as you, but nevertheless, he made a great speaker.
Yes, I recorded our conversation so that we had, because he grew up just across from Spring Hill on what was original Spring Hill property, and he's the grandson of Edna McClymans and Arvine Wales III. So he's the last couple of that generation that remembers his grandparents. So, all right, so this is my all-time favorite building, the stone block. So it's been called the Jarvis Block, it's been called Lee Furniture, some know it as Crohn's Furniture, it was a Masonic temple for a while, so it's known by many names. But on the corner of Erie and Tremont, still standing from 1832, as built by the Russell brothers, is the stone block. What is so cool is that just down from the stone block was Abel Fletcher, who came here in the 1840s, a pioneer of American photography, was shooting some photos out his window, and so this is a photo of the stone block in circa 1850.
It doesn't have the mansard.
So there are like a handful of photos that are like this early of Massillon, but he was testing out a paper negative. At the time, you could only take one photograph. Daguerreotypes were kind of the thing, those ones that look like mirrors that you really can't see unless you hold it the right direction. So daguerreotypes were the way to go, but he wanted to make more than one copy of a photograph that he took. So he was testing out his window, different ways to do that process.
Is there a mansard roof on that?
There was a mansard roof. Here there is not.
Right.
Yeah, so there was a mansard roof because it became the style.
Yeah.
So this would become the Erie Hotel later on. They put a mansard roof on in like the late 1800s, and they were like, we're going to copy that. So they added a mansard roof as well.
Gotcha.
So this is all Erie Street looking south, which I love.
Is that the building that they're repairing the roof?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yes, yeah, so they are, because it was lost to fire, they're now hopefully putting on the rest of the roof. But yes, I'm excited because there's actual like restoration repair happening as opposed to, tearing it down. So like, please keep going. Where do I donate?
So they're gonna restore the mansard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Step 1, restore the mansard roof. And then 2, they've been working on the inside for years. So, it is like kind of a hot mess of an 1830s building with different funky levels. So like there was a lot of work to do to stabilize and make it move-inable.
Sure.
That's a verb now.
Mandy,
Move-inable.
is that the building that has the no mortar between the bricks? Or
Correct. Yes. So it was built by Worthorst back in. He was commissioned by the Russell brothers to put the stone together. There's no mortar. He was such a master mason that putting it together, he didn't need any mortar between the bricks to keep them, the sandstone to keep it together. So it's kind of cool then, as photography gets a little better, you can kind of see, some of the funky character that the building has. There's obviously some storefronts down here. There was a Portman, I think it was a tinsmith. So by the 1950s, it was a very large furniture store. So there was a fire that gutted most of it and took off that mansard roof that we still know is gone.
63.
63, thank you.
He was there.
Probably was. What was so cool is that in 2013 we got to tour and there was still literally a soot-covered Lee Furniture Company tag just hanging out on the floor. So there's that. There's a lot of great tile work on each of the entryways, into the building. There's also then the Masonic portion, which has this convenient shopping cart. It's got a cute little stage. There are actual backdrops and curtains and things that are back there that you could run down. I'm not sure if it was used for theatrical production. It really looked like theatrical production stuff. Yeah.
Marshall Weinberg had a team club up there.
Did he? Okay, that makes much more sense. Okay, so I'm assuming then the backdrops were probably more for the teenagers than the Masons.
Could be, I don't know.
Don't know.
But yeah, go up the steps and that's where he was.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's such a great space. Obviously, again, it needed some roof love to stop that from happening, but this was 10 years ago, so it looks better now. But yeah, all kinds of doorways and everything was beautifully arched. And I love when you can see old safes that are just hanging out. So there was a big giant walk-in kind of debold safe on the first floor, which I guess makes sense. You don't want it any higher than that. So then they've been trying to fill in some of these to make sure that the archways are supported. They've started to, insert different molding and make it look, like a space you actually want to rent. So again, this is where the mansard roof kind of was. See, you did good, 1963, you were right. And that's where it kind of sits today. So still no mansard roof just yet, but they're working on it. So you can see there's the crone. I think the Masonic one is somewhere over that way, but the point is there's all these different lovely storefronts that could totally have some life again.
Mandy, who owns that now?
I'm not actually sure. I know who's working on it, but at one point in time it was owned by a gentleman from Romania, so he would come in and check on it, progress.
Who's working on it? Is it like one of the, I can't think of his name.
His name's Mike, and that's really not helpful to you.
Mike's doing it.
Mike's doing it.
Should have known.
Mike. So I'm so excited that so much of the original sandstone is still visible. Up on the third floor, though, they've kind of glass blocked in some spots, which is never like a, I don't know. I hate when people glass block things in. I want a big, nice window. And it is plywood on there, so that is something that they'll be working on.
They're still doing this, making it a steakhouse. The last time I saw that picture, it was in the paper.
Yeah.
The guy was making a steakhouse.
Yeah, he wanted like a steakhouse and some sort of casino, entertainment. I mean, dream big, but yeah, it's taken a while. Yeah, that was like in 2013 is when we toured around. So 2016 and 17 was when they started again working on it. So I don't know. And I assume this is expensive. So fundraising or, investing so that you can make it happen. But there's beautiful staircases, there's awesome stuff, there's huge ovens, and like a kitchen from turn of the century. So there's plenty of potential. So then added on to that is then the Bloomfeld's building, which has got, it was a clothing store for a while. It was the offices for Eaton, thank you. There was a World War II memorial on the wall here for all those who worked at Eaton who had lost their lives during World War II, which we now have. They found it behind a filing cabinet, and they made sure that got donated to the museum. So, all right, Arlington Hotel. This one's also one of my favorites. So, sorry, these pictures are a little bit funky. This is from a different presentation that I did, but I figured you might want to see. So. Today you may know the Sangria stand and Hex downtown on Lincoln Way, just west of the museum. So back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, it was the Letts and Grays and also the Schwarm brothers. So there we are today. That's it became City Loan and Schrader Brothers, and you can always see this lovely window, which I'm very sad they just replaced. I don't know why you would replace it, it's okay. But there's the Arlington Hotel. It was like the wavy glass where it was like still the original, and you could feel how old it was. On the backhand side, there was a lunchroom that extended pretty much the full length of the building. So it says Curly's Lunchroom or Dining Room, and there was an entrance here, which was a pretty amazing, sadly, again, like trying to prevent water and break-ins, they've sided it in with like a safety door, but this door was there not that long ago.
Might have been the Army Navy Club at one time.
Okay, thank you.
Before they moved out west.
So I did get to see the original entrance to the lunchroom, like door that was still intact. The doors were there. The tile is all still original, which is pretty fantastic. I did a couple photo shoots in the alley, so sorry. This is not like promoting me, but like here's some photos I took. But the entryway was just so fantastic. So it's been boarded up with plywood, again keeping out birds and things. But oh my gosh, the details. So inside the lunchroom, there's this tin ceiling that goes the full length, like a full storefront length, original tin, painted kind of a white, possibly green, it looked like underneath. And then in Hex downtown, they still have this original ceiling up underneath the ceiling tiles. And they did conveniently keep one section that shows the original like wallpaper that I'm pretty sure is either hand painted or is like super old painted inside. So there's a little view window that you can go into their business and see that is still there. So up in the upper section, you can see again that Arlington hotel sign is so cool. And then they still had like weird little details left over. So there's like a lamp. The ceiling is like that like lattice with black and white, and then the lettering. They've got amazing color schemes. Who knew that was so very pink? And this is the place where young orphans Fred and Reinhard Osmus actually built a plane within their room, and this is actually the room where they built the plane. So they had to like disassemble it to get it out into the alley to fly it, and of course it startled the horses, and there was an uproar in 1909, 1910, whenever it was that they were flying this plane down the alley. But he went on to actually sign up for World War I. He was an early bird. He was one of the first pilots to sign up for World War I. And he was later inducted into the Inventors Hall of Fame. So kind of an important room. Pretty cool space. And look at how pensive and smart they look. So again, those details, oh my gosh. Like the weird funky corner sink, the buttons, I love these like on and off light switches, the staircase, all the tile, it's so pretty. And again, just wallpaper. I love when people pull stuff away and you can see the original wallpaper. It's just so good. Because not a lot of people saved that. We do have a weird collection of wallpaper that people saved. So we have like 1840s wallpaper from the Reed residence. Like, awesome. Because all we have is black and white photos of most of these places, so now you can tell what color they were. So, lots of colors. Okay, so this is the cover of my early Massillon book. A little bit partial to this black. Again, we've got McLean Grocery Company there on the left-hand side. We have Cackler Drug. So if you noticed before it was taken down, it did say drugs at the top. It was always a drugstore. S.A. Conrad. So Conrad was up at the top of the one with the bay windows out. And then here, this is Duncan's Jewelers today. It was Rick's Brothers, and there's actually still signatures up in the second and third story of Duncan's Jewelers from the Ricks and their employees, which is a fun little detail. So again, our lovely photographer, Abel Fletcher, taking pictures out the window. This is the earliest known photograph that I'm aware of Massillon. So late 1840s, testing out those paper negatives. I have seen this. It's on the daintiest piece of paper that has ever existed. It's scary. Even though I'm the archivist, I'm supposed to be in charge of paper, I was very frightened to even look at it. So it was really amazing, but this is the picture that came from that dainty piece of paper. So the building that was here before was lost to fire in 1851. It was as a result of that they realized firefighters at that moment were trying to go to the canal with like bucket brigade style, like pass the bucket down to put out the fire that is like raging on this whole building. So clearly bucket brigade was not going to help anybody. Yes?
I'm sorry. Why are the boards up so high on the side?
These?
Yeah.
Great. I am not sure. And I'm not sure if that's like a horse thing or... It might be just after it was finished and they weren't done yet. Like, I'm not sure if it's scaffolding.
That's the same building that you just had a picture of?
Mm-hmm.
So that's at the corner of...
The corner of Lincolnway and Erie. It is the northeast corner of Lincolnway and Erie. And so in this photo you can see there's no horses or people. That's because the exposure time to take this photograph was so long. Anybody who was there has since moved by and isn't captured by the process. But the building was there, so it is captured. Here we go. Yeah, good question. I don't know if it's a canopy thing or not.
Well, if you look on the left, it wraps around the corner, it's right against the building.
Well,
I don't think it is, because it looks like it's supported by...
Looks like it's out a little bit.
It's out a little bit. I don't know. If somebody finds out,
Oh,
please do let me know.
Maybe it is a weather break or something.
Oh, and there's that guy hanging out the window. You've got him.
Another one up there.
Absolutely. So over time, the storefront of the end piece has changed so drastically. So this was the 1890s. I don't know. They went with like sandstone. They've got a down staircase to a barber shop, which actually the tile is still in place in the basement, which is pretty cool. So here we're starting to get a little bit closer to our own time period. They obviously changed. They wanted to make their storefronts unique instead of the whole uniform, block. So each one kind of changed the little window thingies, and over time made it their own. Excuse me. Yeah. So Duncan's has been there since 1897. So they haven't moved. They've been there. So.
Might be soon.
We'll see. So I love then suddenly like when we all like got electricity and streetcars and traffic lights. Traffic lights went in 1925. So I'm assuming they didn't have a good system to keep it clean. So if you shoot up like that, it's gonna definitely look awesome. So again, the Conrad was because of the Conrad. They had hardware, farm equipment. There was a tailor up there, and then it was eventually Brockman's Shoes. So I love, goodbye sale. So at CJ Duncan's, they have this lovely sign for Victrolas. There was an actual Victrola recording studio where you could go and get your record made, which was really cool. The studio setup is still up on the second floor, and Brooke at Duncan still has some of the original like crates that the Victrolas were shipped in that are like handwritten, like to CJ Duncan, from Victrola. Yeah.
Way back, and I'm not sure, Jerry Barnes' sister worked for the photographer up there.
Davis.
And we would go and sit in those bay windows
Yeah.
and watch the parades.
Oh, I love it. What a good spot. Absolutely. That's brilliant. We actually have all the Davis negatives, which
Couple
they
pictures
clean.
back
Yes.
on the corner of show. I wonder what happened to that? I wonder whatever happened to the clock.
Great question. I know some of these sign things, like some of them end up in a landfill, some of them get
I
sold,
remember that clock.
salvaged. Some people save them, they requisition them, redo them. Yeah, we never know. Looking back, sometimes we get offers of architectural details.
Hey, Mandy,
Yes.
in the Duncan place, they used to have those beautiful wooden jewelry cases.
Yes.
Yes.
In there.
Mhm.
Those still exist. They're now up at the Lichten Walter Schoolhouse at Butler Park in Greene.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Green Historical Society. got
Cool.
them, and they use them to display their artifacts up there.
Oh, I love it.
Was they electric?
Good
Did they
use.
have rotators in them or not?
No, these were just beautiful old mahogany ones, glass cases.
Oh, those old cases are so great.
Yeah.
So in 2009, the Conrad and the drugs portion both suffered a pretty massive fire. I believe electrical, Bonnie and Mike lived upstairs, and Bonnie's Engravers Gallery was down here. So when the fire, they lost absolutely everything. So in an effort to assist the Massillon Museum, we partnered to, at least give it maybe a little shine while maybe repairs took place. So we put up some murals as part of our exhibit to kind of help maybe move things along. So this is what it looked like as Streetscape had finished in 2019. Bonnie's Engravers Gallery, as a result of losing everything, and you know how payouts from insurance companies are, they moved down the street to the end there because they couldn't stabilize that structure by themselves because the damage was too much. So then in 2023, in January, part of the back of the building fell off and revealed that the building was rather still vacant. So the city moved to mitigate the situation and make sure that public safety was the #1 concern. So I did get to go in before it was officially closed off to the public. So up in the Bonnie's Engravers portion that still stands, there is, again, the weird original wallpaper that is so fun and colorful. I don't think this one's printed. This one looks a little bit more painted. Great view of the massive number of trucks that took to take it down. So many trucks. And yeah, so there's that. So what was amazing to me is that like within the structure of this was this amazing beam that took like an hour and a half, 2 hours to actually like blowtorch through. So it was amazing that it was actually still very structurally doing okay in this particular zone, because it was brick, it was steel, it was brick again, and then another thing of steel, and then some more, like it was the most stable thing I've ever seen in my life. So it took him forever to get through it, and I was very proud to see that the building put up a fight, so huzzah. So it came down. So I'm looking forward to, being as nice as I can, looking forward to what comes next. What can we do to bring this spot back to life? So if you actually go in the funky gaping hole that is now in existence, you can actually see on the wall, this is one of the original storefronts. I'm assuming the drugstore portion of it, that is still hand painted on the wall. So I have like there's no great way to like chip that off because it's like plaster, but I will photograph it and we'll save it that way. So I took this photo and I really wanted to like, I'm gonna skip past it, it's okay. All right, so one of the other...
Come on, Mandy.
Do you see how nice that is? It's being recorded for the internet, so I'm not gonna get in trouble today. I'm very sad that building is gone. It's on the cover of my book, so. So one of the cool buildings that is still a little bit still with us, it is the Baltzley Drugs portion. So the Knights of Pythias was like a 3-storefront section, and the Baltzley Drug Store, after being in the upper block, moved over to this spot, and then all of these drawers up until whatever year that was, like 2019, somewhere in there, they sold off all of the display cases. So you were talking about those display cases, Rudy. I hope that these guys went somewhere nice as well.
Yeah, I'll say.
All right, so that bolded O for no reason. You're welcome. So the Opera House is definitely one of the coolest. If I could go back in time, I would totally attend a performance. Today it would be the parking garage for the Hampton Inn. It was the Startup bus station. That is the zone where we're talking. It was built in 1869. A couple of delays, so the actual like grand performance was like January 10th, 1870, and they had seating for like 1,000 people, but they hadn't quite structurally done something, because when everybody was seated up here, the floor would actually bow down and you couldn't close the doors on the second story, which is like, that's dangerous. But it did have central heat. There were actually like heaters that would force air up into, or air, some cooler air. So it was it was kind of modern for its time. City Hall actually took up about the second story.
Oh, really?
It did, yeah. That's where all the Justice of the Peace, some of the courts, and the mayor had their offices. And then there was like Bates Printing, Western Union Telegraph, many street level storefronts over time.
Wasn't the Independent in there for a while too?
I think so. I know there were several different printers that were here, and then here's J.C. Lowe. This is the Lowe Taylors.
Bates Printing was up there.
Bates Printing, yes. Yep. Bates Printing got its start right in the upper block.
Where were the bathrooms?
Oh, dang it. That I don't know.
Across the street.
So we have, were they?
From what I understood, the buildings had to go across Erie Street. There were public facilities
right,
or something
yes.
like that over there.
Yep. Public, yes.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't put it on that side because it was too close to the canal. And I have a thing that talks about, like, please remove all privies from canal, because it was starting to join together as a waterway. Not okay. So it's really great. We have lots and lots of programs. If you'd like to see more, please feel free to visit our virtual archives. We have all the programs that we have scanned. Weird and funky posters, such as this. And also, Elizabeth Cady Stanton visited us in 1875 to talk about women's right to vote, which is great. Carrying on, trying to go because I only have a few minutes. Okay, so then this is one of the other amazing photos. So this is the boys returning from World War I in 1919, and it's all kind of on the backdrop. So you said Bates Printing right there, some sort of liquor store. I think that was Massillon Liquor. People's Building and Loan, Taylor's. All kinds of great things. There's a V for the Victory Loan campaign.
Englehart's Music at a later date.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. So the inside was super interesting. Again, cool interior shots. And then when performances such as Hamlet were no longer quite as popular, they turned it into a skating rink. So that's all kind of like filled in. So Sylvester Bird turned it into a skating rink circa 1905. And sadly, the third floor did become condemned. Again, that weird sagging floor, I'm sure, had something to do with it. So they just zipped off the third floor, and they had a kind of two-story structure for a while, but there you can see Mayor Keene is pointing, so you know something bad's happening because they're going to start planning things for the future. And then it becomes demolished. So every time I go in the indie negatives, I'm like, oh, they're pointing. There's 3 guys in trench coats with fedoras. Like, this cannot end well. So that is it today. So that is so this is the zone.
Beautiful.
Mandy, I'm hoping one
Yes.
of you will know the details. When I was writing the piece on Bird, a small article that they had a circus there,
Yes,
and they
good question.
hoisted the elephants up to the floor.
Yes.
They couldn't get them from the ground floor. They had some way.
So on the back is the canal. So it made it very easy for traveling performing troops to come through with canal, or then the railroad was nearby. So it was at where the Agathon Field was. They were going to have the circus, but it got very, very rained out, very flooded. It was near the river. It was a hot mess. So they pulled the whole circus up to the Opera House. The horses went up the main staircase, and then they hoisted the elephants using the block and tackle that was already in place for luggage and things, and they hoisted them up to the 3rd floor. Now, if the seats were sagging on the top floor, I can't imagine the elephants, what might have happened when they came in.
That might have been why they looked like that shortly thereafter.
Yes, that's actually elephant damage, not personally tearing it down, yeah. All right, so I've come to the end, so I do have to fill in one other building that I don't have any pictures of because we are in search of it. So, at Spring Hill Historic Home, of where I am a secretary on the Board of Trustees in my spare time, we have decided to begin looking for the outhouse. Now, why the heck do we care where the outhouse is? In outhouses, historically speaking, if you go down, there was no trash service, so anything that was trash, whether it's bottles, brooches, a broken plate, a toy, those all live in this lovely column underneath the outhouse. Now, the reason that I get very excited about Spring Hill's outhouse is because it was described as a deluxe 4-holer. I'm excited. 2 stories tall. Oh, that sounds like poor planning. But please do tell me more. And that is literally all that was written about it. Where was it? Where was it? What did it look like? What's in there? When did you build it? We don't know. So,
Did they build it at all?
what's that?
Did they build it?
They built it. Yes, it existed. It was a deluxe 4-holer for what that was worth. But where is it? So what's underneath there? What cool things can we possibly find? So if you would like, we do have these lovely Outhouse Crew stickers because I'm one for stickers. They are over there on the table. And then there are 3 super cool events that you can partake in. It is upside down. Thank you for telling me. There's a research day, August 2nd, where you can come and help us scour the photos and the maps and the things to figure out where all some of these other outhouse, milking parlor, and some other buildings that don't exist anymore. We're going to go searching for them. We'll tour the grounds. We'll take a look. Then we have a preview for members only on September 29th. And then a privy dig on Saturday, September 30th. So this is an all ages. It is free and open to the public. So I wanted something for me to get super excited about. Please feel free to bring your Indiana Jones hat. And we'll have a LiDAR machine that you guys can actually run. Yeah, I know, right? Yep, see, everybody's got like that one thing where they're like, yes. We are gonna scour the grounds for the milking parlor. We will have a LiDAR machine that anybody can look at. For kids, there will be gemstones and things they can sift through the dirt to find. And then for us adult folk who can handle actual dirt and don't care about tiny gemstones, there are actual piles of dirt that we need to sort through that have been shifted from a recent project that we need to sort through and see what fun artifacts we can find.
Cool.
So, join my Outhouse crew, please. There you go. So that is all that there's so many more buildings we could talk about. So you're gonna have to bring me back for part 2, 3, and 4. So. Okay.